What if the secret to success wasn't some brilliant idea or even just pure hard work? What if it was just having a ridiculously rigid plan for everything? Well, today we're jumping into Edgar Allan Poe's A Businessman. It's this hilarious and actually really sharp story about a guy who takes the process to a whole new absurd level. And in doing so, man, he shows us some pretty uncomfortable truths about our own world. For our guy, Peter Prophet, this isn't just some nice quote you'd see on a poster. Oh no, this is his entire religion. He is so completely devoted to method that it's basically his whole personality. And we're about to see just how much fun Edgar Allan Poe has with this idea, stretching it to its most comical, most insane limits.
So, here's the game plan. We're going to look at Poe's angle here. Then we'll meet the man himself, this guy obsessed with method. We'll follow his, let's call it a career path, through some really bizarre jobs. We'll get to his assault and battery business, yeah, you heard that right, and his absolute masterpiece, cat growing. And then we'll tie it all together and figure out what Poe is really trying to say with all this madness.
Okay, so when you think Edgar Allan Poe, you probably think of creepy stories and horror, right? But A Businessman shows us a totally different side of him. He was a whip-smart social critic. And he was living right in the middle of this huge industrial boom, and he saw how this relentless chase for profit could twist people into something, well, something barely human. So he decided to hold up a big old funhouse mirror to the whole thing. And you gotta remember, this story was published right in the thick of all that change. This was Poe's direct shot at the society around him. The methodical businessman was becoming the new American hero, the symbol of progress. And Poe, who was always kind of an outsider, just couldn't resist showing the dark, and let's be honest, the hilarious side of that whole obsession. So let's finally meet the man of the hour, Peter Prophet. He is not your typical entrepreneur. He doesn't have some grand vision. Nope. He's more like a machine, like he's been programmed with one single command that controls his every single move. For Prophet, method is everything. It's not about what you're doing, it's about how you're doing it. Common sense, morality, ethics, to him, those are just messy details getting in the way of the only thing that matters, a perfectly organized, repeatable plan. And he has absolutely no time for what he calls genius. To him, creative people are just chaotic, unreliable, basically bad for business. He proudly calls himself a regular businessman, a kind of clockwork human who picks precision over passion every single time. And while he thinks that's a badge of honor, Poe shows us it's really more like a cage he built for himself. So what's the origin story for this guy? How did he get this way? Well, you're not going to believe this. A bump on the head. Seriously. He claims his nanny dropped him as a kid and it miraculously created this organ of order in his brain, like a superpower for systems and routine. It's the perfect, ridiculous explanation for a perfectly ridiculous man. Okay, so with his new superpower, his organ of order, fully fired up, Prophet decides he's going to take on the business world. But his career path, it's not really a ladder to success. It's more like a spiral staircase straight down into a rabbit hole of pure wonderful absurdity. His first big idea, get this, he becomes a human mannequin. He literally just parades around the rich parts of town in a tailor's new suit, moving with the mechanical precision of a wind-up toy. He's not just wearing clothes, he's executing what he probably saw as a sartorial algorithm. And this is where you really see the genius of his madness. Look at this bill. He doesn't just clock in and out, he invoices for every tiny detail. He charges 75 cents for telling a first-class lie. He even bills for the misery of wearing a hot coat in August. This isn't just an expense report, it's a masterpiece of insane micromanagement. From there, his career just gets weirder. He becomes a professional pain in the neck. He builds ugly things just to get paid to tear them down. He makes mud puddles and then charges people to sweep them clean. He even trains his dog to splash mud on people so he can sell them a shoe shine. His whole business model is basically, if you can't find a problem to solve, just create one and then charge for the solution. But wait, he's not done. Oh, not by a long shot. He is about to discover his most brilliant, most painful, and most insane business idea yet. He's literally going to get rich by getting beat up. And here it is, right from his own ledger. A dislocated neck, a lawsuit, a whole bunch of trouble, and what's the bottom line? A net profit of 75 cents. To you or me, this is a catastrophe. But to Peter Profit, it's not about the money, it's about the method. And as far as he's concerned, the method worked perfectly. You would think after making less than $1 from getting physically assaulted, he'd be ready for a career change. But no. For Profit, all of this was just practice. He was just warming up for his magnum opus, the one business that would secure his legacy as the most brilliantly insane entrepreneur of all time.
So a new law puts a bounty on cattails. A normal person sees a pest problem. Profit, he sees a scalable business opportunity. He's not going to hunt cats. No. He's going to farm them. With some fancy cat food and some special tail-growing oil, he plans to turn a public problem into his own personal cash cow, harvesting tails 3 times a year. So there you have it. That's the story of Peter Profit, the man who turned being ridiculous into an art form. It's a funny story, but underneath all the laughs, it's a super sharp satire with a deep message. So let's peel back the layers and see what Poe was actually trying to tell us. When you boil it all down, this story is a warning. It's about what happens when we put our faith in the system without ever questioning it. Profit is so obsessed with his process. He never stops to ask, hey, does any of this actually make sense? He's turned the entire world, including his own body, into just a series of transactions. He's a cautionary tale for any of us who've ever been told to just follow the process without asking why.
And this is exactly why this story still feels so relevant today. I mean, think about it. We live in a world of life hacks and hustle culture and constantly glorifying the grind. We're all a little bit like Peter Profit, right? Always looking for that perfect system to optimize our lives. Sometimes we get so caught up in the grind itself, we forget to ask if the thing we're grinding on is even worthwhile. Poe saw this coming almost 200 years ago. So I'll just leave you with this question. The next time you're tempted to follow some system just because it's the system, or to optimize some part of your life just for the sake of it, ask yourself, are you actually making things better, or are you just figuring out a really elaborate new way to farm cattails? It's a fine line, and as Poe shows us, it's one we all have to think about. Thanks for joining this explainer.